What I love about the service that I provide is that clients do tend to purchase more than one property in a space of 10 to 15 years. And so today I received a message from someone who I assisted a few years ago with her first property purchase, and she is now mulling over the idea of whether or not to purchase a secondary property. And she's been seeing a lot of activity in the marketplace where people are buying property, secondary property, for investment purposes, and the future rental income is being taken into consideration by some of the banks. And that is such a game change for the property market here in South Africa, because it's allowing the growth of someone's portfolio where they couldn't actually realize to even consider a secondary property at all. And so it's just generational wealth creation in that regard. And it actually feels so good for me to be in a position where I can be sort of a go-between for people to consider this as a reality and roll that out. And so she goes ahead and sends me this WhatsApp and says, please, we'd like to consider purchasing a secondary property and leasing that out to start a property portfolio. And this has been one of her goals, to provide a secondary income. And this is amazing, so that I can be the person to facilitate that. So I'm always so grateful, and it's always so nice to see people coming back to you, that you did something good, right, on the first round. And so they'd like to know what they qualify for the secondary purchase. And so the assessment now is to actually run the pre-approval assessment with the current income and expenses. And what's lovely to hear is that there's been an increase in her salary since we first spoke and since the first application took place. And so now I'm able to incorporate her revised earnings and then of course a percentage of the future rental income. And so she's also gone on to ask if she can incorporate an equity loan on the existing property that she owns, which is quite interesting, which will help fund the attorney fees, right? And maybe some additional renovations perhaps that she wishes to do on the next property. Maybe do a nice lick of paint, or just spruce up the bathroom or the kitchen. And so she's also inquiring in her message to me, what are the advantages and disadvantages of looking at increasing the existing facility to help support the purchase of the new one. And so just to touch on some of the things that you may want to consider when looking at refinancing an existing property to support that purchase, is that your interest rate will be reviewed on the existing property, right? So that's one thing. And you've got to then run the equity loan at that bank separate to the new purchase application, because you just don't want it to clash and have a higher interest rate given on either of these applications that you're going to be running, because there's a breach of the exposure at one bank versus spreading that risk out. So that's something that you've got to consider. And we can run these applications simultaneously at the separate institutions. And I've said to her, let's see what comes back on the refinance application. Let's see what the quote comes into. We as bond originators can also influence the negotiation on that interest rate, and perhaps we can revise it for better. So it's a great way to even review the existing facility. And even if you don't use those funds, put it back into your Access facility and just enjoy the benefits of a reviewed interest rate. So yeah, this is a great inquiry from someone that I've assisted many years ago, and it's such a privilege to be able to assist with expanding her property portfolio.